Yep. All right. There we go. Harry, do we have Harry Shopman online? Actually, you know what I forgot to do is to do a round of introductions. So maybe I'll just do the folks in the room and then I'll check off your name if you're online, but it looks like we got a pretty good crowd. So I'm Andrew Leroux, emergency planner here at Addison County Regional Planning. Behind me is Julian Larson, our new energy planner with ACRPC, and then maybe we can just go around the room and we'll see if the owl tracks you.
Sure. Marty Heights, town of Addison.
Kyle Buxton, Green Mountain Power.
Mike Burke, Green Mountain Power. I lead operations statewide. Kyle is the local manager in the Virgins Middlebury area, covers probably 15, 20 towns, right? So
great. Thanks. And then online, I'll just run through, and if I miss you, holler at me. But I see Paul McMahon, EMD for Waltham, Dave DiBiase representing Virgins and possibly also Middlebury, David Shaw, Fire Chief of Middlebury, Sandy Corda, EMD for Orwell, Ben Marks, EMD for Cornwall, Nicole, I'm going to say Hammer, very new EMD or EMC representative from Salisbury, Barb Rainville from Lincoln, Pete Brown, can you remind me where you're from if you have a second?
Middlebury College.
Oh, right. All right. Pete Brown from Middlebury College. Great to have you. And then Harry Shopman from VEM. And if it's okay with you guys, I'm going to turn it over to Harry for a couple minutes just to give an update on revised LEMP procedures and things that are happening this year. Harry, do you mind if I put you on the spot?
Yeah, no, all good. So as we've said at the last couple of REMC meetings, the legislature wanted us to make a change in the LEMP this year to include a part that said, you know, every town must at least have a shelter listed. So we used that as an opportunity to go in and make some additional changes. So we weren't changing the template. Last time we changed it, I think, was 2018. So the goal was to have us not keep changing it and make more work for the towns. So with that said, we also got 3 more regional coordinators. I know a lot of you have heard this spiel already, but I'm just going to do it for anybody who hasn't. So now there's 6 of us. So I went from covering 4 counties down to 2, Chittenden and Addison. I live right on the border of both, so that works out really well. And what we've decided to do is we're going to, you know, come out and meet with every town and walk through with you the minimal updates that have gone on, talk through the LEMP together. And basically I'll help you port it over to the new template, because even though most of the questions are the same, it is a new template. So we're trying to take that work off of the towns and take it onto ourselves to do for you. I've already met with Bob and Marty, Dan and Charlene over in Starksboro, and also Pete in Michael in Bristol. So I already met with, you know, several towns in Addison, but I have a lot more to go. So I'm at the point where, you know, I'd like to start scheduling with, you know, with the different towns. The EMD must be part of that conversation and must be part of this update. That is another requirement and one of the changes, because in the past we've had towns, you know, have several people or maybe even just one person, you know, go in and just update the plan. But our feeling and belief is, especially after the last 2 years of flooding, that the EMD really needs to be part of that update process. They need to understand the LEMP. They also need to, you know, buy into it, because if somebody else is updating it when the time comes to use the LEMP or open a shelter or open the town EOC, if the EMD wasn't part of that process and doesn't agree with what's in there, they're going to go do something different. And then the document's not really going to be reflective of what's going to go on. So I'm just throwing that out there to make sure that, you know, as we schedule these meetings, to make sure the EMD is there. I do encourage others to be part of those meetings. In some of the towns I've gone to over in Chittenden County, we've had as many as 5 or 6 people. And then there's cases where it's just 1 or 2 from a town. But the people that I think should be part of this process would be not necessarily your first responders, because they know the deal and they know, you know, they should know who you are as the EMD or who the key players are when it comes to opening the EOC and the shelter. But I'm thinking more the folks that would be opening the EOC and being part of that, and the folks that would be running a shelter. So that way they can understand kind of what the expectations are here, ask their questions, and just be part of the process, share their input. and we can kind of unearth any hiccups or questions as we go. So I will start sending out emails to different, the different EMDs in the different towns to try and start scheduling this. But I encourage any of you, if you want to be proactive and get ahead of this, the other towns, because I've got a 41 town roadshow going on here and I'm only 10 in. Feel free to send me an email and I'll be happy to work. We can find a time. I'll come out to you. And then, once one of you says to me, hey, come out, and at this time, I'll probably reach to neighboring towns, to set up before and after that appointment. So that way my traveling, I can, catch a couple of towns in one time. So open to any questions. Again, so far I've done 10 of them. They've gone really well. I know I owe Marty and Bob your updated versions. I've gotten caught up with the rest of them. And then I had a little bit of a medical issue last week that set me back a week. But I'm back and I will get Marty and Bob theirs. But other than that, yeah, it's going really well. And I think us coming out and meeting has been really educational for a lot of towns, and especially towns that haven't been hit with storms or whatnot, to be able to really understand what we're looking for on there. We talk about other things. I've been giving every town a FEMA shelter guide, which talks about all the things to think about when opening a shelter. I have other handouts and goodies that I bring in and let you guys take as many as you need to hand out to your community and those kind of things. So I do think this has been a great process and I'm glad we're doing it. I'm glad we have enough people to be able to do it, because up until now, we've only been able to be reactive and instead of being proactive, just because of the sheer number of having 65, 85 or 100 plus towns. You can, there's only 40 something hours in a week. So yeah, so I'm open to any questions and then I'll give my VEM report later, I guess, when your agenda calls for it.
Okay, that would be great. Oh, we got a question from Ben.
Yeah, hi, Ben Marks, EMD from Cornwall. We've been working on our LEMP with Andrew, who's been great at supporting us. How does your process and his process dovetail?
So just to take a step back. So in the past, the RPCs, as part of their contract, was to work with towns to do the update with the towns. Once that, the town and the RPC felt everything was up to date and ready to go, it goes to the select board, gets adopted, then it would come to VEM for approval. Because we have 6 of us now, because we think this is important in building the relationships with the community directly, instead of working through a middleman or middlewoman, we are now working directly with the communities and the towns. So we will come out and update it with you. And then at the end of the process, we're the ones that are going to approve it and take the steps that need to be done on the state side as well. So it really cuts out, because over the last couple of years, Ben, if you had an issue with your LEMP, you and Andrew got together, you updated it, you thought it was good. When it came to me, if there was something that I felt wasn't passing their minimum requirements, I'd have to go back to the 2 of you. And it just was extra steps. So we've kind of cut out those extra steps. Now we're talking directly. And also it's helping towns understand what we bring to the table at the state level. And obviously there's not a charge for Vermont Emergency Management. We're the state. So we want people to understand how we can be during emergencies, not just in the planning, but during the emergency, the recovery, and even the hazard mitigation piece of it. And by having that buffer in between, it was hampering that communication and being able to let that understanding flow. And I think that has changed. The RPCs.
Yeah, no, I get it. That's great, and I'm supportive of that. And whatever we can do to streamline the process, from our perspective, it's really about husbanding our resources as we are, all volunteers. I have a kind of dumber, more immediate question, Andrew, which is that we have a meeting scheduled for a week from today. Does that mean that meeting is off and I should communicate with the rest of the folks in Cornwall to scrap that? Or does that mean that the meeting is on, but after we're done, we're going to see Harry?
Thank you for asking. So that's the 5-year hazard mitigation plan, which we are still, the RPC is still taking the lead on, although we do work with.
I see. Okay. So we got both processes. That's great. Okay. Yep. Super. No need to take more group time with it now then.
Cool. Yep. Harry's doing the groundwork for all the annual plans and we are communicating. So
yeah. So VEM is handling the local emergency management plans or the LEMPs. The RPCs will still be working with towns when it comes to the hazard mitigation plans. Also, there's a slew of other things that they bring to the table, and they also head up the local liaison process, which is during a disaster or emergency, they're the ones that reach out to each town, kind of see what's going on, and bring that package back to us to say, in Addison, this is the damage we're seeing, this is the effects we're seeing, and it helps us get like a ground truth. So that's still going to be on the RPC to take the lead on that.
Yeah, that's great.
If you're
welcome
if you're already
to the
having a
process.
meeting, if you're already having a meeting, and you have all the players in the room, and maybe I could come out and we could have our meeting. It's only going to take an hour. We could have it either before or after, if that's helpful to you, to not have to pull your volunteers together for a second time. So let me know.
No, I think their hour is committed already on the hazard mitigation.
No, I'm
stuff.
saying I could either do it before or after that if you've already got the folks together.
Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
saying the 1 hour is all we've got. So
Okay.
I'm totally excited to have you involved in our LEMP process, but it's going to have to be separate and on another day when everybody's had a chance to catch their breath. I'll also say I'm going to make a plea. I'll make this plea often. I'm a no acronyms or initialisms guy. When you transition from the professional world to the world of volunteers, the acronyms just get in the way. I mean, you all think it's shorthand, but for me, it turns ordinary conversation into mysterious code that has to be slowed down. So that's my one plea, and I'll, as they say on the radio, take my answers off the air. Thanks.
Thank you, Ben. Are there any other questions about the annual plans and VEM's role in that before we transition over to, I want to give GMP a chance to really get into the nitty gritty of electrical structures and resilience, but I don't want to cut off folks. You can also, we'll have a little time after that too. So if it's okay, I'm going to attempt to do a screen share and make sure things don't blow up. I think we lost Chief Shaw for a fire call, but I think we've still got plenty of folks. So I will try to pull that up. And I will hand it off to Mike Burke from VEM, and we'll see.
GMP, but we were
Sorry,
pretty close when it was
GMP.
Vermont Emergency
Sorry,
Management.
and for folks out there, that stands for Green Mountain Power.
Yes.
That's, I'm not making fun of you, Ben. I also struggle with the acronyms. All right, can folks on an internet land see a GMP
Yep.
slide?
Yes, we can.
Okay, awesome. And just wink at me and I'll.
Thank you, Andrew. What I plan to do is just really hit high level what we're seeing, what effect that's having on our customers, and what we're doing to help mitigate the issues that's causing. And when I say what we're seeing, it's really about the climate change type storms we've been seeing. I always like to say what this picture is, because this was one of the events that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. I'd like to say this was a March 2023 event that's down on Route 30, I think in the New Haven area. And I think some of you were probably here. I think it was only a year ago that we spoke here. But in this event, we had anywhere from Jamaica, Newfane, Townsend, down into Stamford, Vermont, the melted equivalent of about 5.5 inches of rain, 4.5 to 5.5. When you looked at the storm, it just looked like snow. The reason I point that out is when the snow is sticky, 5.5 inches of rain is no different than like 5 inches of ice. And if it was in the summer, the roads probably would have been washed out. So that's why I like to make the point that sometimes the snow can look like it's no big deal, but when you realize how much total precipitation in there and the weight of that, that's why these storms become, such a bad thing for GMP and our customers. On the other hand, the last 2 months have been really cold in Vermont. It's the first time we've seen that in 3 or 4 years. So for instance, the 7 or 8 inches we had this past Saturday, even though it was a lot of snow, it was only about 1/4 inch to 4/10 of an inch of melted equivalent. Even though the snow looks like a lot, it doesn't stick to anything. It's what I like to hear a lot of people say. I didn't come up with this, but Chamber of Commerce snow, right? The ski areas love it. The towns love it. It's all good. If you could go, and I'd love this to be interactive, so if people have questions, please let us know and we'll slow down. This is just a snapshot of GMP. I think the customer base is now more like 277,000, so we've gone up. There is development constantly taking place in Vermont, and we cover about 75% of Vermont. So a lot of those new customers do land in our territory. The majority of our customer base is residential, as you can see, but we do have some pretty good sized commercial customers as well. I think I've heard in Vermont, some people refer to GMP as the urban utility. Probably in Addison County, you're not saying that, but I can tell you if you go down into Windham County, Bennington County, Orange County, we have a few tiny little urban spots, but the majority of our system is in the rural areas in Vermont. And you can see there are, believe it or not, 17 utilities in Vermont. There's GMP, 2 co-ops, and it might be 16 now. I think there's 14 municipals. So that's what all those different color shades are on the map. Next, Andrew. So what we're seeing from climate, and again, the last 2 months have been wonderful. If it could stay this cold all the time, maybe not quite this cold, but 20 degrees would be just fine. When we're locked in like this, we can take higher winds. There's no leaves on the trees. And when it's this cold, all of the snow we get is the light and fluffy type. It doesn't stick to anything. We're not even worried about outages in events like this or any storm when it's that cold. But that's not what we've been seeing the last 5 to 10 years, and really more so in the last 3 years. It's gone from, I remember 4 or 5 years ago, we used to have 8 dry snowstorms a year where you don't even worry about it, and like 2 heavy wet snowstorms. I know in 2014 we had one of the, to this day it's still the worst heavy wet snowstorm we've had, and this was ground zero, this area. I don't know if you remember that or not, but it snowed for 3 days at 33 degrees. And then at the end of the 3rd day, it dropped to like 15 degrees, everything locked in on the trees, and it didn't unload for 11 days. I know customers probably haven't forgotten that one, and we certainly haven't forgotten that one. But that used to be 2 events like that, not that big, but 2 events like that. Now we've flipped. Now we see like 1 or 2 dry snowstorms, and all the rest are snowing between 31 and 33, and it's wet snow. Again, the last 2 months have been really nice. We wish it could just stay where it is right now, but if you've seen the forecast for tonight and tomorrow, it's going back into the 32, 33 degree range again. So tomorrow will not be a light and fluffy snowstorm. Tonight might be. That being said, there's not enough total precipitation that we expect the ice or snow to cause any outages. It is going to be breezy, so we may get a scattered outage here and there from the winds, especially since we're here. It is a southeast wind. Sometimes you get downsloping winds off the greens in Addison County, and it's more than northern Green Mountains. So Addison County, Chittenden County, probably Franken have, again, it's not forecast to be anything widespread, but there could be an outage here and there tomorrow. So back to the precipitation. Everyone's seen the flooding events we've had in the last few years. I know we lost Route 116 here. We all drove around it the other way for probably, how long was that?
Months.
Yeah, it was a while. We had I can't remember if it was a downburst or what caused it. But just this summer, we had the issue where I think 4 broken poles in a row, where we had a downburst come down the mountain and take out a lot of Route 116. In fact, I think I spoke to David Shaw during that event, and I know Kyle did too. So thank you for all the work we've been doing together. But those are the types of events we're seeing, just lower pressure, which leads to stronger winds, which is when the trees are leaved out. That's what happens. It might have been Hurricane Debbie. That's what it was. I couldn't remember what it was. If you remember, the day before that hit, the forecast was for no wind issues in Vermont. We had a statewide call, and we were told that again on the statewide call, and within 24 hours, there was a high wind warning. We had winds into the 70s. When it's fully leafed out and completely saturated, that makes for a pretty long day. So anyway, the flooding, just when we get storms now, there's just more precipitation in them. So if it's in the summer, we deal with flooding and high winds. If it's in the winter, if it stays around 32, 33 degrees, which it's been doing a lot, we get heavy wet snowstorms. Those can be just as bad, if not worse, than an ice storm. With an ice storm, you can put chains on and creepers, and at least you can get around a little bit. This storm I was talking about down there, that the snow was 4 feet high. The crews could barely even move. The towns were having trouble plowing it. So I don't think I want an ice storm or a heavy wet snowstorm, but heavy wet snowstorms are about as bad as you can get, depending on the amount of snow you get. More for infrastructure, more outages. Andrew, Nick?
Yep.
So when we see an event coming, we've been watching tomorrow, and again, we've been watching this weekend for a week now, and we've gotten to the point where really, even if you read the National Weather Service forecasts, it's changing now right up until the event. If you read the forecast discussion this morning, 1 or 2 degrees either way can change the whole thing. So even though we're watching this, it's changing every day right up to the final moment. Again, tomorrow, there's just not enough overall precipitation that we expect anything widespread. And the same with the winds. The ground's pretty frozen right now. We're not saying that a tree may not fail here and there, but we're not expecting anything widespread. We're already watching this weekend, and these are all the different systems we use. I just realized we still had Roger on there. Roger did just retire. So we have a different utility forecaster now in Roger's place, but all the other ones are the same. We work pretty closely with the National Weather Service. In fact, I was just there 2 or 3 weeks ago. They asked me to come and speak a little bit to the damage we've been seeing, how they've been doing forecasting, everything like that. And then we have internal people that actually know how to read the models ourselves as well. And you can see we get all the same weather models that the National Weather Service uses. Customer outreach. So I want to talk about that a little bit. A lot of you on here probably get emails from Tiana Smith. I can't see if anyone's shaking their head or not, but we do have an outreach that when we don't send emails and ramp everybody up if we're only expecting a scattered outage here and there. We don't want to become the boy who, or girl who cried wolf, but we just, when we do see an event coming that we're concerned about, we try to get information out to our customers, out to the local emergency planners, and so everyone knows that it's coming. We do that outreach. We also have a lot of customers who are use medical devices now that need power. We have set up email groups and phone call groups that we can reach out to them ahead of time. What we're finding is, a lot of customers now, everyone wants to get out of the hospital as soon as they can, right? So, and just like everything, we all adapt. The medical world has adapted and gives customers now devices that they can go home sooner on. Some of those devices don't have tanks like they used to. They're oxygen concentrators that the minute the power goes out, they don't get oxygen anymore. So we're talking to medical people in the profession about that, and we're also talking to customers about that and things that they can do. And we help them make plans ahead of time for if they do see an event coming in. When we call in an event, I'm going to stick with that for a bit on critical care customer outreach. In an event, when we can push a button anytime and see which critical care customers are actually out at any given time, we'll call them during those events. The way the grid works, which we're going to actually get to a slide that shows that in a minute, we're not calling them to say we're coming to get you back on. If a customer is out on mile 7 of a distribution line, there could be 6 sets of damage between them and the substation. We have to fix all of that before we can even go to the problem that might be causing their local outage. So we're really making those phone calls to give advice, help those customers make decisions that can't sustain a bit of a longer outage. And a lot of the times that's when we also reach out to local emergency planners to say, hey, is there anybody that can go check on this person? And again, that partnership has worked really well. And I don't know if anybody in this room has experienced that with us, but again, working as a team like this during these large events it's been really helpful to the customers as well. And I know you're always looking for data too. I think the last time I was here, we recommended, somebody asked the question, how can we do outreach if we know certain areas of town have populations that we like to check on? If you download our app, it actually will tell you where the outages are. It highlights the area. So that's been pretty helpful. The feedback we've gotten from towns is that's been pretty helpful. Again, if we see it's going to be a really big event, we do bring in extra crews. You know, again, as of right now, that's not what we're seeing for these next two events. The one on the weekend, that's 5 days away. A lot can change. Probably move on to the next one. When we reach out to other crews, sometimes people say to us, how did you get the crews from New Brunswick? How did you get the crews from Quebec? So we're part of a mutual aid group, just like I know the fire departments are. Ours is a little bit further of a reach. The North Atlantic Mutual Assistance Group reaches all the way down to Virginia, West Virginia, and all the way across the 3 northern provinces, eastern seaboard provinces in Canada. We go to Canada to help, they come here to help. And the crews traveling around the Northeast cross state borders to help each other, just like it's their own customers. So that's in a really, really large event. We're pulling from the North Atlantic Mutual Aid Group. In a smaller event, we do have contractors right here in Vermont that help us all the time. We pull them in. If it's a bigger event that it goes outside of that group, then we go to the North Atlantic Mutual Assistance Group. That is the same group you see sometimes where we end up in Georgia, we end up in North Carolina. This is the group that sends us there. This past year, we were in West Virginia, I think, for 9 days. And I think we stayed right until we got their last customers back on. Obviously, when we do that, we look out 10 days on what the forecast here is. We don't leave our customers at risk. But when we can help and we know the weather's okay here, we go because we want them to do the same thing for us when we're in need, right? So this is just a little bit of how we actually have to, when I mentioned we can't always get to the medical device customer write-off, this is why. So the first thing we do, and I know a lot of relationships, you probably have, and your crews have relationships with the road managers and the town all over the Middlebury district area. But the first thing we concentrate on is clearing hazards. So as soon as we heard about the event in the tornado, we were rushing crews into 116 to try to get 116 back open so that emergency responders could go through and get to where they needed to go. But that is our first, even if we have to go just to open a road and not restore the power there, that is our first goal. After we do that, we start to work on the transmission lines. The transmission lines are the lines that just go substation to substation. They don't feed any local homes or anything. If those lines are down, we can fix the lines along Main Street and along where you have your houses all day long. They're still going to be out when we close the fuses back in. So we clear hazards, we repair the transmission and the substation facilities, and then we go to the main lines. When we say main lines, think of the line along Route 7 that goes from the East Middlebury substation to the Middlebury substation. Those are the main lines, and then everything taps off those. So those are what we repair next. Usually, those lines are the ones with your fire stations, your town halls, your emergency operations center, your hospitals. So usually when we bring those lines back up, it's getting all the infrastructure that the towns need to be able to operate during an emergency situation. Then we move on. Once we get those on, that is picking up the largest amount of customers. And then we'll move on to an 800 customer outage versus a 10 customer outage. And we just keep going down the line until we get the last customers back on, which would be the more isolated events. I'll talk a little bit more about this, how we're approaching this resiliency wise. That might even be the next slide, but we'll see.
Can I ask a quick?
Yep.
for the transmission lines,
Mhm.
is Velco a separate enough entity that they do repairs on transmission, or are you guys doing what we think of as kind of the big
No,
ones?
that's actually a great question. So I mentioned mutual aid. So in Vermont, there's bulk transmission and there's sub transmission. The sub transmission is the lines that go sub to sub to sub that feed our substations. Those lines go back and tap into the bulk transmission, which is Velco.
Okay.
Velco has 300-foot right of ways. We normally have 100 on our transmission and like 15 on our distribution. Again, we can't cut 100-foot right of way through towns. You'd have no
Right.
trees, and we don't want to. We'd rather do what I'm going to talk about in a minute. But if Velco does not have trouble, they come and help us fix our transmission lines. So we work very closely with Velco to the point where, you know, when their crews come here, it's like operating our own crews. So yes, they do help. They have their own lines, we have our own lines, but we both help each other depending on what we have for trouble.
And presumably with that much buffer and bigger,
They have
lines.
less trouble than we
yeah,
do.
unless it was like a direct line
Correct.
wind or.
Yep.
Okay.
I kind of hit all that. Yes, I did hit all that already. That is actually, before we get off that page, he's not kneeling. That is that storm down, he's in Pike Falls Road, which I think is in Jamaica. I think you were down there.
That's a Middlebury lineman right there.
So it just shows you,
And
and
they're
that was
tall.
after 3 or 4 days of settling, right? Because snow settles when it's that wet.
Yeah.
But that's what we were dealing with, even trying to get out to these lines in some areas. We've been going to visit. This is, I think, since probably around that storm, I bet I alone have probably been to 30 to 40 different meetings like this around the state. Tiana Smith has also gone around. Tim Jones, we've got a team of probably 5 or 6 of us that have been hitting everywhere we could to speak to understanding what everyone's been going through, talking about the plan we have, and some of the things we've already been able to, you know, the RPC meetings, Vermont Emergency Management, we work really closely with them during these big events. We actually put a GMP representative right in the Emergency Operations Center. So if something comes in through there, we can react quick to try to get them answers. And then we had some really high customer demand on our energy storage systems. And we used to have a limit of only being able to do 500 a year. We asked our regulators, our customers are really begging for these. We were up to the point where at 500 a year, we had almost a 4-year wait list. We asked them to allow us to meet the customer need, and they lifted the cap. And now, you know, the wait period from somebody wanting a system until it's installed is probably a couple months, where it was 2 or 3 years. And again, that's the energy storage system where if you have an outage, your lights don't even blink. A lot of people tell me they see the notification on their iPhone that they're on Powerwall, and that's the only reason they even know that the grid is down. Part of our plan on Zero Outage Initiative to keep people safe in their home is to eventually get some type of device with storage like that, whether it's an EV storage in your home, something that connects into the meter, to get that into all residential homes, so that when the grid still does go down in the future, even though it's going to be less, people are safe in their homes. And, you know, that idea we've met with customers after that event in March, and we heard about people who live alone now. Their families have moved away. Vermont has an aging population, and we were hearing stories. Some people couldn't even get their doors open to try to leave the house. So that's when we started thinking, okay, what else can we do when the grid goes down to help people stay safe in their home? So that's a lot of what drove that. Next, Andrew. So this is, what are we doing about this? We're not just standing around and waiting for the next weather event, okay? We actually filed probably, I think it'll be 2 years ago in October, for what we called our Zero Outage Initiative. And there's 3 prongs to that initiative. It's undergrounding, storm hardening, and energy storage, like I just talked about. The undergrounding, where we're really doing that, it's what we're calling zone 3. So think of our more rural areas, your main lines are overhead. And you start to go to a tap that feeds 20 to 300 customers, and it's more rural, go out through national forests, things like that. Those are the lines that we're really concentrating on to try to get underground. When we lose the main lines, those are usually the first things we get back on, 3 to 4 hours. And then we spend the rest of the storm out in these areas, that area, and then the last mile to the homes, which we call zone 4, which is where the energy storage comes in. So right now, they approved our program. We have a 2-year approval from now through the end of September 2026. It is a pretty zeroed in, dialed in approval right now. We have a reliability rule that we follow, that every year we have to turn in what's called our 20 least reliable circuits. They gave us permission to do this work in those 20 least reliable circuits, and then come back at the end of that for the next plan on what we do next. The work we're doing in those areas, burying the lines that go out the most, is what we're doing in our normal day-to-day stuff too. We just don't have quite the large amount we can do like we do in this new program. But for the overhead portion, we're doing what's called spacer cable, which the example I would use for around here, back in 2007, we rebuilt the line coming out of the substation on Hewitt Road up into the village of Bristol. That line during I hate to tell you the bad news, but that line remember last January 9th and January 12th, we had 2 hurricane force winds events in 3 days. Both were downsloping on the western slopes. That line went out for the first time since 2007 during that first event. So if a line goes out once every, doing the math, 15, 18 years, that's not a bad deal, right? And the only reason it went out is it happened to be like a 3-foot diameter maple that.
That'll do it.
But again, everything else that's ever hit that line, the line has stayed on. So that's in the manufacturer that makes that says it eliminates 90% of all outages. And that's absolutely the experience we've seen with this stuff. If you're driving down the road, it's what looks like a diamond in the air. It doesn't have cross arms, so it takes up a lot more space, and it's got a 1/2-inch steel cable on top of it. So if anything falls on it, it doesn't do anything. We actually have a picture of it we'll show. The undergrounding, which we're going to show in a minute, we have a machine now which can drive down the road at like 1 mile an hour. It goes down 51 inches, automatically puts in any amount of power conduits and cables you want, any amount of phone and communication cables you want. It could put in like 20 at a time if you wanted it to. We don't need that type of infrastructure here where we're doing these, but my point is it can do a lot. It backfills clean fill on its own. We have a tamping machine that runs behind it that I'm not a road civil engineer, but I'm told it packs it back to 90 PSI, which for your road guys, I assume that's pretty good. We hear sometimes that's harder than what the road is. And then the energy storage. So say we have one line, 10 spans that goes to one house. Those are the ones that we're hitting with energy storage first, because we're not going to take the machine and run it out for one house. We're going to take the machine and run it out for the 20 to 200 house type lines. We're not doing this just there's multi-pronged things for benefits for this. Obviously it reduces storm cost. It eliminates the need for tree trimming when you're underground. These are all savings that eventually will come back to our customers. In the areas that we've already done this, we have a few lines that we've already done this on. In 22, that line went out 14 times. In 23, 13 times. In 24, it went out twice. And both times it went out had absolutely nothing to do with where we did the work. We actually lost a transmission line 17 miles away. So, and the other outage was similar to that. So we pretty much had no outages where we've done any of this work yet. Go ahead, Andrew.
Yep.
So this is what I'm talking about. So the spacer cable is the picture on the right. Now that you're looking at it, I'm sure you've probably seen it driving around town. That piece on top that looks like a bare wire, that is the messenger cable. It's 0.052 inches thick, over a 1/2 inch thick steel cable. It can take a lot with it. We did a line that goes from Sharon all the way to Stratford. Actually, it's 14 miles long. Does everyone remember the Halloween 2017 wind event? I do. Like, we don't forget these
No,
things.
you guys-
But that one was, it's to this day, the most amount of customers out at once in the state of Vermont. GMP was hit hard. We had 81,000 customers out at peak. That's about 30% of our customer base. WEC and VEC were even higher percentages than that. But anyway, in that event, we had finished the line 14 miles from Sharon to Stratford about 6 months earlier than that. At the end of the storm, we sent a crew out. They removed 11 trees. The line never went out. So this stuff is rugged. And then the other wire is, if we can't get it underground, whether it's too much ledge, too much river, whatever, where you see covered wire, that's just the version of the storm hardened wire we use in rural areas, single areas that's just residential, where we can't get it underground. I think the next picture shows the actual machine. I might even have a video. So this is where we're doing the work right now in southern Vermont. We're doing it in like 5 different towns in southern Vermont. Is there a video there? Maybe it's a. You can actually go on our website. This video is on our website if we can't play it here. But yeah, there's usually a play button right in the middle of the screen. So I don't know what I did when I sent it to you. Maybe I lost the link. But anyway, the machine way up in front on the right with the orange on it, it looks like a locomotive. That's the machine that's doing this work. It just drives down the shoulder of the road and puts all those conduits in at the same time. You know, where we used to, if our line was out in the woods and we'd bring it to the road so that our crews can safely work on it, we used to have to cut 20 feet of old forest just to even get the line in there. Now we don't touch anything. We just drive down the side of the road. When we're done, you don't see any lines and the power stays on. So that's the 2 upper pictures are the actual, that's the machine. We don't run it in the winter, not because it can't dig through the frost, but towns don't like us in the roads cutting. It's only 12 inches wide, so it's a pretty small trench, but still, to do that when it might snow tonight, it just doesn't make sense. So we more or less work May to about mid-November with this machine, then it takes a break for the winter. The bottom left-hand corner is the type of cable we're using. The cable is already in the conduit. So when we drive down the road, sift the fill back onto it, tamp it and backfill it, all we have to do when we're done with that is the line workers come in and terminate and take down the overhead. So when this machine's done driving down the road, the cable, the conduit, everything is in the ground. We actually do have a project on a line that we've struggled with for years and years that goes through a Green Mountain National Forest from Middlebury all the way up to Ripton, think of Bread Loaf campus. And it's literally on a forest road with trees and banks and everything all over it. That line, a section of that line is going to go underground later this summer, right?
A little over 2 miles of 3 phase.
And that's the area when we have trouble up there, that's usually where we are. So that will be nice. Let's put it that way. There are other ways to do it too. Vibrating plow, regular trenching. Regular trenching just can't keep up with these type of machines. So we've been doing less and less of regular trenching. When you're building a new subdivision, you can't really use this stuff, right? Because you're piecemealing and putting in the sewer and everything. So in that case, it still makes sense to do the older underground way where you're putting it in with excavators. When you're retrofitting overhead to underground, this is what we're doing. That might be it. I rushed a little bit because I know you only had us for 20 minutes. I have no idea how we did for time.
You're
but,
great.
Yeah. Happy to take questions, answers.
So, or for the emergency managers, you guys have a list of each town and who to contact, or? how does
Yes.
that work?
So Tiana Smith actually sends the email. Certainly if people in here aren't on that list, I think I can probably get the list from Andrew. I think last year you sent her the whole list.
Yep.
So anybody that's not on that, we could make sure we add, those people to that list. And
I'm new, so I'm probably
Okay.
not on that list.
Yep.
Okay.
And we, I don't want to cut people off. I know, oh, I see Ben Marks. What's your question?
Quick question about costs. Back in the day, there used to be a sort of 10x cost factor for undergrounding compared to overhead lines in terms of installation. And I'm just wondering, with the new machines you've got, have you been able to bend that cost curve at all?
Absolutely, Ben, and good to see you, by the way. We've worked together in the past. So yes, that's really, we've been looking for probably 15, 20 years on ways to do more cost-effective underground. And for the single phase underground, our goal, and we're seeing that on some jobs, and we're learning and making sure we're getting there, but on the rural single phase, we're getting to the point where we can put this stuff in at about the same cost as if we were rebuilding it overhead. If we can't, we do the estimates ahead of time, then that's why I said if we can't use the underground, there are places where, whether it's riverbed or pure ledge, that machine, by the way, does dig through ledge. I didn't mention that. But again, if it's a half mile of ledge, 5 inches below grade, it would take us a long time to get through that. So in the majority of places, this machine can do it at close to the on-par cost of the overhead.
Right. That's just awesome. And if folks don't realize it on the call, that is an absolute game changer for a rural state like Vermont. And it's going to have a huge effect on all of our lives on the emergency management and first response side of things. It really thumbs up to you guys. That's just awesome to hear. Thank
you. I do have a bit of a caveat to that. The reason we're saying the main lines with the spacer cable, so the manufacturers that are making this cable and conduit, right now, they only have 2 sizes of cable and conduit. And what I mean by that is we can carry a lot of customers and carry a lot of load on that style underground that I showed you. What they do not make yet is that type of material for main lines. So for instance, the lines that we have from East Middlebury to Middlebury, if we lose one substation or the other, that conductor is so big that we can carry, we call it feeder backup, that other substation from that substation. So when we lose a sub, something happens in a sub, it doesn't just mean customers are out. They don't make that underground big enough to be able to do that. So that's why we're saying main lines, like coming out of the substation in Bristol, we're going with that spacer cable because that's 600 amp equipment, where the underground is only 200 amp equipment. I know that doesn't mean a lot to 600 can feed a lot more homes than 2. Let's put it that way. And the other thing, the reason we're starting in rural is think about trying to run that saw through downtown Middlebury. It's not going to work, right? The only thing, the only thing we're dealing with right now in the areas we're doing this with is culverts. There's no phone. There's literally nothing underground. And when you think about it, most of Vermont, there's nothing underground, right? It's culverts that are the thing that we're having to work with towns to get around. But, you know, we don't see this machine being a viable option when you get into a more urban area. So that's my own caveat, Ben, is yes, we can do it on par in rural residential areas, not so much in urban areas where there's much higher loads.
I'm gonna follow up with you with some questions about undergrounding and other things, because that shows up a lot in our hazard mitigation plans, which some of which are in a couple of generations, but a lot of them say support GMP on right-of-way maintenance and underground power lines. And I'll talk with you about.
I'm glad you brought that up. Can I,
Sure.
Do we have, you know, one thing that we're finding is, and we really are trying to do more outreach and sit down and talk with towns about this, but there's some areas where we're actually trying not to even go near, even on the shoulder of the road anymore, because towns are, even though we're only digging up a 12-foot trench, they're starting to require us to re-gravel the whole road. And the whole thing I just talked to Ben about, doing this on par with overhead, if we start to become a road company, that's gonna be harder and harder to do, right? So the one thing that I know it's tempting to always try to, when you're doing something, do something. But if we start coming in at double the cost of overhead because we're doing a ton of road work, which we've seen, I'm not just making that up, then this isn't gonna work and we'll be back to overhead. We're actually trying to, as much as we can, just stay in our existing right of ways. Because we've yet, just so that I'm not pointing at any one town, we've yet to find a town that hasn't asked us to do that. So, and again, this thing only 12 inches and the tamper is custom made to fit the trench. So when we're done, the road looks as good as it did before, but we're finding that's not what we're being asked to do. So that's a real problem we're dealing with right now. Our answer right now, we already have easements for all these lines that are off-road. If we can do it in the off-road, we're gonna do it there just to avoid that altogether. But unfortunately, there's also a lot of ravines and rivers in some of these cross-country areas. In some areas, the only flat place is the road. So I'm glad you brought that up. Just something to think about on how you can help us move this forward. So thanks for that question.
I'm gonna suggest, since I know a lot of folks have to go at 1, maybe we can do a quick update from Harry while we still got you. And then.
Yeah, I just wanted to tack on one thing to what was just said. So I know, Tiana has her list of folks that have registered with GMP about needing, if power goes out. There is also the CARES program, which so EMDs have 2 avenues to try and find out who those in their community are that might need looking in after. I will say, as one of the watch officers, and I'm on right now, I've worked with Tiana very closely in the past where if she has a customer, we had one a couple years ago, woman, they couldn't get in touch with her, sister from out of state called, they had called Green Mountain Power called the watch officer, I called the EMD and the fire chief, they went to the house, it was 31 degrees in the house, the woman had no heat, she couldn't drive, and it was a coordinated effort to get her to a warm, safe place. So we are tied hand in hand with Green Mountain Power and the other utilities when it comes to that stuff. So as an EMD, if you're not sure, the watch officer, that 24-hour number is we're going to be able to work together to get you what you need. So so for my report quickly, I will send an email to you, Andrew, that you can bump out to everybody. The biggest thing, I think, and in the interest of time, I'll just keep it to this. Tomorrow is our flood seminar. Every year we put out the videos from the different agencies and how they all work together when it comes to spring flooding. Tomorrow is going to be the question and answer session. It's only an hour long. Weather Service will have their latest spring flooding forecast as of tomorrow. As well as being able to ask any questions to us or any of the agencies that deal with flooding, from VEM to AOT to, there's a whole slew of them. So that is tomorrow, but I will send that information. It'll have the link to the videos. It'll have the way to do tomorrow's 1-hour Q&A. And other than that, I will send a few other things that you could bump out. The hazmat team has hired that second person that we've talked about for years.
Nice.
And they will be helping with tier 2 reporting and getting it back to towns at a much quicker pace than in the past. So again, anybody reach out with anything you need, but I will send that to you to bump out.
And I see a quick email or chat from Dan Cusio, who I think might have left, but just from the LEPC meeting, echoing a little bit what Harry just said, and then we'll share the rest via the minutes. And I don't have a whole lot from the RPC except that we're working on a whole batch of hazard mitigation plans. And if you don't already have a poster from us at your town meeting, I'll get you one. And I think other than that, there are some updated local liaison procedures, which Harry mentioned at the beginning, and I'll touch base as those are finalized, but that's basically just reaching out to the folks you have listed in your annual plan. And maybe with that, we'll adjourn the meeting, but we'll keep it on and folks can continue to ask questions of Mike, and maybe we'll get Kyle a few questions too. But thank you guys for coming. Those of you that have to go at 1, we'll let you go, but you're welcome to stay on. And thanks, and I'll send out minutes, and if you have questions, please follow up.
Harry's point on is it the CARES?
Yep.
Harry? Yeah,
Yes.
so we've been asked by a lot of towns for us to just hand over our list. We can't do that because it's tied to medical.
Right.
And so we have been trying to push, when we talk to customers, we tell them about that list as well in hopes that they'll sign up for that. But it's not something we can just hand out.
I think that question came up last time.
Yeah.
And we all.
Yeah, the minute Harry said that, I was like, oh, yeah, that.
Mike Leiden from Bristol, our new EMD from Bristol, but an old friend from Porter Hospital. Go ahead, Mike.
Thanks, Andrew. Question for the GMP folks. Where is GMP at? What are your thoughts on, and I'm sure you're tracking this and thinking about it, contingencies around a change in the availability or pricing of power coming from Canada? So I know our feeds come right from ISO New England and the sort of balancing model and all of that, a lot of moving parts, but in terms of Highgate and other systems, what are your thoughts on that? What's your crystal ball say? Obviously, it could impact pricing. I understand natural gas is maybe a bigger sort of variable for everybody to look at when it comes to ISO New England, but just your thoughts on that.
Yes, so as soon as the mention of tariffs came out, we actually started working with the state of Vermont, the governor, the Department of Public Service, and looking at exactly how our contracts were set up, how the rest of New England, including ISO New England, is set up. And what I can say in terms of reliability, there is no issue with reliability where it could become something where we have a shortage of energy. We don't see that as a problem. In fact, sometimes we operate with that open anyway. And so that's not an issue. In terms of cost, we're still working through with exactly how the tariff reads, because there's delivery point language and things like that it depends on how the Trump administration writes it. And it depends on how it's interpreted. Right now, what I can say is Green Mountain Power and all of our Vermont utilities are doing everything we can, that if anything ever did come to fruition, we're doing everything we can to make sure that we're turning over every stone to avoid any financial situations. There's two lines that come into Vermont. The one that connects to Vermont itself, again, we've got contingencies. It's not a problem to operate without it. There's also another line that goes down into New England that could be affected, but even that line, there's plenty of other sources of energy that would address that. So really the only threat, which again, we're looking to avoid, is the threat of some slight cost pressures. The thing about Vermont is we do have long-term contracts that keep it from spiking a lot, like it did in some of the other New England states when the Ukraine war started. So, it would be every 1 penny counts, I get, but it would be minimal, if anything. But I don't have a definitive answer because we're still looking at it, and the way it's written, not everyone agrees. So more to come, but we're working to mitigate anything there, and reliability is not an issue.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I think we're in kind of wait and see
Yes.
mode on a lot of
Yep.
a lot of funding and financial things.
I was gonna ask you too, with, next to our house, we have an empty lot. Basically, it's a common space for people, that don't have waterfront access. So we had several large dead trees. I'm looking at them, I look at the power line, it's going across the lot, and I called and your folks will actually take care of, took the trees out. So, because they were totally dead, and my thought was, I was afraid it would take the power line down, which would knock out a good stretch of the neighborhood. So I don't know if people are customers aware that you guys offer that?
We survey our lines. We trim them every 7 years, and we survey. If we get a call in about a danger tree, we go out and look at it, and we make sure it is actually a threat to us, because we get a lot of calls that people want
Want this
trees.
tree out.
Yeah. So I don't know if you saw me go, but we take hundreds of calls like that every year, and we go out and make sure it is really a threat. And if it is really a threat, then we'll make the decision to take it down.
Yeah, they took out 4 or 6 trees that were there,
Mhm.
and they were stone dead, so it
Yep.
was, yeah, nice of you guys.
We look at tree health, but we also look at the way these guys are arborists, so they look at the way it's gonna fall, they look at, and
Mhm.
so.
And I think, yeah, that was part of the impetus to talk to GMP was about some of the private landowner, and you guys have at least one, probably more websites with information. And I'll make sure that those go out with the links and things too, because they're some of, who to call, who've got issues and that kind of thing. So I'll make sure that.
Yeah, if you just call the regular number and ask a question like that, it'll get forwarded to the correct people.
Cause I would say like in our town, probably older demographic, and I think some people are reluctant to address a tree because they're afraid they have to pay for it. They probably can't afford to have, somebody come out and do it, but if it's in proximity to a power line, I guess we should have, try to encourage them to have you guys come out, at least check it out,
Yeah, I don't really want to put out there that people should call GMP to get their trees cut down, because again, we survey the lines
Yeah.
anyway.
Mhm.
And so if we see something, we're gonna go after it anyway. And I don't want to get to the point where 50% of the people we're saying no to, and then that becomes an issue on its own.
Okay,
So
okay.
now, again, if it truly is something that we think is about to come down, absolutely call it in. I just don't think I'd want to put out a broad scale, hey, if you got a tree near the line, call us.
Okay.
I'm trying to say that delicately,
No,
but
I understand. I
Yeah.
understand.
On Chipman Hill, I wait till it's actually on fire until I call.
Well, we just took care of that for you.
then it only
Phew.
can be them. It
Yeah.
can't even be the tree guys.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thanks, Nicole. We got people kind of dropping off. If you guys have topics for future meetings or have questions for the GMP folks, I will post the slides if that's okay, and send those out, the ones you showed. And that has contact info, and I'll send a follow-up email to everybody just so you have it. And thank you guys for coming out. and
Yeah,
spending
thanks for
your
having
time.
us.
And hopefully we'll cross our fingers for tonight and this weekend.
Mhm.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Too much of an unknown yet. Again, not expecting precipitation to do anything tonight or tomorrow, but it's gonna be pretty breezy
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Cool. Any other questions from the assorted folks out in digital land? All right. Feel free to stay on or to go. We'll kind of wrap things up here and hope you guys have a good rest of the winter. I think our next official meeting is May or second Wednesday of May. So I'll reach out before then, but thanks for getting together. If you are interested in an officer of the REMC position or in recruiting more folks in your town, please do so and reach out to me and I can help get materials to you. So, yeah. And Simon says hello and he says, if you're not in the room, you're probably safe from this cold, but watch out because there's a lot going around.
Yeah, there is.
See you guys. Thanks.
Yeah, we just took care of Chipman Hill for you.
Yeah, that
That
looks good.
That location, and we just barely put it underground.
I can do this.